Welcome into fifth quarter extra second round action now in the books. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you here for an hour, showing you a lot of highlights of our local football teams. And Patrick, it's really interesting because obviously we can't control the way the bracket breaks. And so a lot of times we'll need some help from our friends in different parts of the state of Alabama. We had more than a dozen local teams playing. However, most of those teams were all on the road.
I think we only had 6 in our area that we were able to cover, and then we were relying on our fellow Next Star stations, which I just want to start and say thank you to everyone that helped us out tonight. That was a big part in getting our show up tonight, and just really appreciate all the help.
Absolutely, and we will start with our game of the week in Class 6A. Saraland, this is a football team that coming into this game, Patrick, obviously they were 10-0 on the season. They did not play the last game of the regular season because their opponent canceled, and so they had to have everything that they were thinking they were going to have with the last game of the regular season in the first round of the playoffs, things like senior night and everything else. So it was a first round that didn't really feel like a first round for Saraland early on. In the second round, it was actually a rematch of a game played from last year. Coach Jeff Kelly's bunch matching up with Spain Park after knocking off Wetumpka the week before. Jamison Roberts scoring a touchdown early on, then going to one of his favorite targets in Deshaun Spencer, who had a big day for Saraland. And then after that, it was first quarter was all Saraland. It's kind of a nice heavyweight boxing match, because the second quarter it was all Spain Park going into it, and it was the thing that, in my opinion, kind of the thing that turned the tide for me was Saraland being able to come back late in the game, score some plays, and make some big plays late in that football game. We won't have those in these highlights. However, one of the big things, one of the big takeaways that we had from this football team is you got a chance to see just how the heart of a champion, so to speak, the heart of a region champion. And they've blown out so many teams, you wonder how they play in tight games. They play really well.
Yeah, and I mean, this was one game where it was like it was a game where Spain Park really tested Saraland, and it really gave them they gave them a run for their money. And honestly, kudos to Saraland for being able to pull out the win here tonight. But I mean, that's what you want in the playoffs. You want to get tested so that way you can build that confidence moving forward as we get deeper into the playoffs and be like, hey, we can beat anybody in any type of game. We can beat you by a blowout. We can beat you in a close game. And I mean, it oozes confidence.
That's exactly right. And so Saraland does punch their ticket into the second round. Coach Jeff Kelly, he's only missed the playoffs one time in his career. He's coached for 21 seasons. This is his 20th playoff appearance. Of course, they won last week. Now they're back in this week. They've made the second round 8 of the last 9 years. So it's a model of consistency with this football team. We do want to say also, if you were watching on our live broadcast, in class 4A, our system had it flipped, had the scores flipped. American Christian and W.S. Neal. American Christian came to W.S. Neal, came to Bruton, and W.S. Neal won that game. So congratulations to the Eagles. A phenomenal season overall. We apologize for the error there. 35-7 was the final score. This is the W.S. Neal team. I'll tell you, Patrick, that number one, they have a loyal fan base because we've heard about it from all over. Hey, get the score right. And we appreciate it. We certainly do. But also, too, after getting that big win over T.R. Miller and having a really strong season, playing probably pound for pound in the toughest region in the entire state of Alabama, is the Eagles team that has a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, they've been battle-tested throughout the season, playing in arguably the hardest region in all of Alabama, and that just makes you a better football team, especially for this time of year where you need to be tested in these games. You need to see, can your team respond in these types of games to keep your season alive, and they do. They get to play next week now.
That's exactly right. All 4 teams out of Region 1 in Class 4A all moved on to the second round, and 3 of them are moving on to the third round. Jackson, W.S. Neal, and St. Michael. Great season for Mobile Christian, but they fall at Bullitt County. So once again, apologies for the flipped graphic there on television. W.S. Neal does get the win. We want to give them their kudos. Speaking of sweeping, Class 4A Region 1 swept in the first round. 7A also swept in the first round as well. Let's dive into some of those games.
Yeah, let's head to Daphne. It's the 4th-ranked Auburn Tigers. Don't get it confused with the college team here. And taking on Daphne here tonight. A nice little top 10 matchup in Class 7A here. And it's going to start here with Daphne's Christian Seeger. He's going to scramble here, but unable to keep control of the football. And Auburn is able to come up with it here. And that's going to be... That's going to set them up here on their first drive of the game. And this is Kason Myers, who is the starting quarterback for Auburn. He's sacked on this play. This sack would actually knock him out of the game. He left with an injury. So then they got to turn to John Pate. And let me tell you, John Pate doesn't look like he's skipped a beat here because he just hit Joshua Askew for the first score of the game. That made it 6-0 Auburn here early. Daphne going to look to try and answer back right here, and just unable to keep control of the football here in this game. Unfortunately, another turnover, and Auburn is right there to pounce on it, and that would lead to a Cortez Cooks touchdown run, and the 2-point conversion there would be good. So it would be 14-0 in the first for Auburn. Second quarter now. Auburn punt would pin Daphne well back in their own zone on the 1-yard line, and that is a safety there, so that'll make it 16-0. And it's going to be Pate again late in the second quarter. He is going to keep it himself on this short little touchdown run. Look at that. Showing off the agility there, and he's going to fight his way across the goal line for a 23-0 lead. And then right before the half, Tigers trying to add to their lead now. He's going to roll to his right this time as Pate hits Antonio Welch for the score. It's 30-0 at the half, and Auburn will win this one 40-0. But good season here for Kenny King and the Daphne Trojans.
Yeah, one of the things that Coach Kenny King talked about at the beginning of the season was their team, their willingness to do the extra stuff, to do more. If they were working out 3 days a week, they wanted to work out 4 days a week. And they wanted to do everything just a little bit extra to be able to move past that first round, be a true contender. They were able to do so this year, and they found themselves in holes in games. I remember way back in August, they were down at McGill-Tulane.
That's right, yeah.
Clawed their way back in the football game. They were able to do it a couple other times in the season. It's a team that never really quit. Simone Eli and I went out there to crown our player of the week one weekend, and I'll tell you what, that team truly loves each other, and you could tell. And it's a really good season for Daphne once again, but they fall at the hands of Auburn. Next up in Class 7A, Baker was also on the road at Opelika. And this is the Baker Hornets team led by new head coach Eric Scott. He came in. Of course, Baker made history last year, won their first playoff game for the first time in 40 years, and made the most of it this year. Really came back with a lot of talent, Katoria Marion, Tate Graham, and others. However, Opelika was a little too strong in this game at home. Blake Johnson, also here on this play, Jalen Washington to Andre Van, who gets it into the end zone for the score there. CJ Johnson also with a big play for Opelika. And really nothing to hang your head about if you're a Baker Hornet, because this was a very, very good season. Obviously got a lot of big wins, including the biggest one on as far as the regular season goes against their rivals. However, I'll tell you what, this is something that you can build on if you're Coach Eric Scott.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I mean,
go ahead.
You got the milestone last year,
yeah,
and now you're starting to build on it again. And now it's just, if I were on the team, I'd be already looking forward to next year, because it's like, okay, we keep on raising the bar, and at some point something's got to give. And I see a good future here for Baker.
Yeah, absolutely, and a ton of playmakers are all back. They had to almost retool that entire defense, and so for them to not only make the playoffs, but obviously win a first round playoff game, to be able to go to the second round, no shame in that. Opelika wins 35-9. So next up, another team out of Region 2 matching up with the team out of Region 1.
Yeah, top-ranked Central Phoenix City at Fairhope here. We're flipping to the other side of the Class 7A bracket, and we're going to start here with the Pirates. This is Trey Garner on the option. Hit his man Brian Martin over the middle, and Martin is going to do the rest there. 8-0 Pirates here early. But Fairhope is going to try and pull off the onside kick, but Cameron Hurd said thank you for that one, and he's going to take it all the way to the house. A great play there from Cameron Hurd, and we'll move on to the second quarter now. The Red Devils up 10-8. Pirates trying to respond. This is Garner looking deep. He puts that right in the breadbasket for Andres Hunt, and it was a back-and-forth battle here in this one. Later on in the second, Red Devils lead 17-15 now. Quarterback Bobby Coleman, he faked out pretty much everyone and find his man Tristan Lyles, who sprints his way into the end zone. It's a 24-15 lead at that point. Fairhope put up a good fight, but top-ranked Central Phoenix City wins this one 31-15.
No shame in that one as well. A very, very good Central Phoenix City football team. And you think of what Tim Carter has built. He's a veteran. Yes. He's been there for a long time. It's funny because we go from a first-year coach in Eric Scott to a veteran, and both teams have so much to be proud of after this season. It got a first-round playoff win last week, but unfortunately falling. And the Fairhope Pirates, obviously a really big senior class, a talented senior class. I believe that coach said he had close to or more than 30 seniors on this football team. And so this is a season they'll remember for the rest of their lives. And a really good year overall for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, no shame in it because you made it a game against the top team in the state. And I mean, I think there was at one point in the second quarter they were winning.
Right.
So I mean, again, we talk about trying to build on stuff for next year. I know it's going to hurt right now. The losses always hurt
for sure
right now.
Yeah.
But once I think it starts to settle in, I mean, you got to have a lot of hope here for next year.
Absolutely. Let's move over to Class 7A now. MGM was on the road at defending 7A state champion Thompson. The third-ranked Warriors, of course, led by their quarterback in Trent Seaborn. People have heard about this young man's talent since he was in 8th grade, and the Alabama commit really showed the reasons why in this game tonight. Took the first touchdown in for himself on the quarterback keeper. Later, he hits Price Lewis for a 5-yard touchdown pitch and catch, an early 14-0 lead. Still in the first quarter, a 56-yard dime here to Darian Mosley. It's 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. Thompson goes on to win 54-0, the final score in this one. And so Coach Zach Golston and company, we have talked about what he's building over there and how the mentality and how everything has changed over in Sems. And once again, just like we talked about with the other 3 teams that played in Region 1, no shame in this one as well. Of course, a very talented Thompson team. We knew it would be a tough run here, but MGM season comes to an end.
Yeah, but it was a great season, as you mentioned, for MGM, being able to make it to the playoffs, obviously building something over there in Sems, but just a great year overall.
Absolutely. So the 7A final bracket looks like this. Keep in mind that 7A is a lot smaller than other classifications. So now we're going from 8 teams down to 4 teams. Your final 4 teams, it will be Thompson and Central Phoenix City. Central Phoenix City will be at home. And then Opelika and Auburn, 2 teams that are very close to each other. They know each other very well. 2 towns that are right next to each other. Auburn will host that game. So Coach Keith Etheridge and company will host Opelika. Central Phoenix City will play Thompson. I think if you follow 7A football for a long time, you've heard these 4 teams over and over and over again. They'll meet once again. But once again, a nice hat tip, because what we say here, we mean it every single time. And as we get to the playoffs, we unapologetically, we'll tell everybody, we'll sing it from the mountaintop that we're rooting for our local teams. And we came into this night rooting for our local teams. They swept last week, but obviously a really good season and a lot to be celebrated going into this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to root for our teams, but I mean, you look at the 7A matchups, and they're tough matchups.
Yes.
And there's, again, nothing to hang your head on. These are good building moments for the future for each of these programs. But I tell you what, I look at that 7A semifinal matchup between Central Phoenix City and Thompson, and I feel like that's going to be a must-watch.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to want to watch that one. Keep in mind that we're now in that next phase where the AHSAA retooled some things as far as the first round playoff game. So it used to be Region 1 plays Region 2, Region 3 plays Region 4, but we got carbon copies of the same results over and over again. They switched it up this time. Region 1 played Region 4, which meant some really long road trips either way, and Region 2 played Region 3.
Was it Fairhope last week that had a 5-hour trip?
Yep, yeah. Fairhope had a 5-hour trip. They played James Clements, and then who was the other one?
Blanking.
Yeah, I'm blanking too. They also had another long road trip there as well. And so, in my opinion, the HSAA did what they thought was good for overall for football, and I agree with them. We got to see some different matchups there. It was Daphne that went to Spartan. That's what right. It was. But it was good to see those teams come back home and play really tough. So the Final Four is now set. The winners of those two games, Thompson, Central Phoenix City, Auburn, Opelika, will go to the Class 7A Super 7 championships in Birmingham. So once again, they're a little bit ahead of everybody else, one round ahead of everybody else. Next up, let's go over to Class 5A, Williamson on the road there at Elmore County.
Yeah, Lions are going to open it up here, top-ranked Lions, in the red zone to start. And this is a name you've heard quite often. Jamarcus Let Edmond, he fights his way across the goal line, and Williamson would strike first here in this one. But the Panthers are able to answer midway through the second on 4th and goal. That is quarterback Gage Davis tossing it to his fullback, Connor Pike, for the touchdown. And then Williamson would go on to punch right back as Let Edmond is in for his second touchdown on the night. And Williamson wins this one 42-14.
So 42-14, the number one team in the state, Williamson, moves on. I just saw in the in our QAP was like, hey, get to some real football here. Williamson and Viger. We wanted to give our 7A team some love because they were all now gone. But we knew these two teams. We knew this Q from about 4 weeks ago that these two teams would be alive for a very long time. Viger and Williamson. We saw Viger thanks to our friends over in the Montgomery area being able to give us those highlights from Williamson. However, Viger was playing north of Tuscaloosa. They were playing north side tonight. They got a blowout win, 49-28 over the north side Rams. So it is now Viger and Central Clay County in the quarterfinal round, and it is Williamson and Montgomery Catholic in the quarterfinal round. I think these are two great quarterfinal rounds, and once again, we will be unapologetically rooting for, as you said in the chat there, Williamson and Viger for the rematch. I know both those coaches. I know Coach Renardo Jackson and I know Coach Antonio Coleman. They know those players know that this game is on the horizon. Yeah. However, they got to take care of business because those are two really good football teams.
Yeah, you cannot overlook any team, especially in high school sports. I've seen it. I've been a part of it.
Yeah.
Back when I was playing, I saw it firsthand.
Yep.
Our softball team was the number one team in our class, and they fell in the first round.
Right.
Because they were thinking about, hey, we want that rematch, so just got to take care of business. But, yeah, I think we're on a collision course yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. So for where those games are, as we stand right now, of course, this will all get ratified tomorrow. They're all made official in Montgomery coming up tomorrow morning. But we can go ahead and speculate the way the bracket will fall. Viger will host Central Clay County. And just by the way the bracket falls, I hate this for Williamson, but Williamson will be on the road again. It's just the nature of where they fall on the bracket there. So they'll be on the road again going to Montgomery Catholic. But once again, those games will be made official coming up tomorrow. So if there are any changes, that's what we will see. For those interested on the other side of the Class 5A bracket, it is Fairview and Scottsboro next week. Fairview will host Scottsboro, and Moody, once again, Moody was the team that was at the top of the polls at the beginning of the season, lost a couple of games early. They played some really good opponents, but once they lost, Williamson and Viger moved all the way up. Viger was 1, Williamson was 2. Then Williamson beat Viger. They literally just flipped. They just stayed that way the rest of the season. Moody was the number one team there. So I think a lot of the teams that we expected to be here at the end will be here. Moody will host Briarwood.
Yeah, and honestly, I could make a comparison here. Moody to, I'll make the college football comparison to the Texas Longhorns. Texas lost that opener. They lost the one against Florida, and they're slowly starting to build the train here. And Moody, I think, could do the same thing. Again, can't overlook anybody.
Absolutely. So hat tip to the top two teams in Class 5A getting it done. We want you to get it done one more time coming up next week as Viger's at home and Williamson is on the road. So that way we can get that matchup that Q was just talking about. Williamson and Viger, once again, that was the region championship, and now we want to see it played for a right to play for the state championship. We'll get that game coming up next week. One of the games that we did not talk about in Class 6A, Benjamin Russell played Theodore played Benjamin Russell. Before he got to that, it just popped in my head that we didn't have that game. So Theodore played Benjamin Russell. Benjamin Russell got the win 21-14. So a great season for Coach Steve Mask and company. So our local team that's still alive is Saraland. Our local team still alive in Class 5A, Williamson and Viger. And now we can move over here into Class 3A now, or Class 4A. Which one are we going to now?
Yeah, we'll go to 4A.
Let's go to 4A. Let's go to 4A now. And we have St. Michael here and Pleasant Grove. We got these highlights a little bit later here, so we're having to look at these ones on the fly. These two teams met last year. Keep in mind that St. Michael went on the road to play Pleasant Grove last year, right before their matchup with Jackson a year ago. And I'll tell you what, Coach Philip Rivers and company, they just continue to impress.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a nice catch there. Gunnar Rivers just dropping it right in the breadbasket, as we've always seen.
Yep.
I mean, it feels like every week we always say that, but no, I mean, St. Michael had to go on the road here and, again, take care of business. You know, you come into this game 11-0 on the season,
right?
But really, you got to treat it as, hey, we're 0-0. I know it's cliche, but
yep.
That's just what you have to do, because
yep.
you never know what could happen in this game. But as we mentioned on the show, St. Michael improves to 12-0 on the season here. A nice win.
Yeah, still undefeated in our chat. Heather Madden Williams wants us to put some respect on W.S. Neal. We did at the beginning. We'll do it again right here, because W.S. Neal, once again, they come away with a big win, 35-7. If you're just looking at the record, you can't look at the record with these teams.
Right.
You have to look at the way they're playing going into these games. And the record won't blow you away, but the way that they're playing late in the season will. 35-7 over American Christian. So not only St. Michael punching their ticket, we were 4 for 4 in 4A Region 1 last week.
4 for 4.
And now we are 3 for 4 going into this week. One of those teams is W.S. Neal. A huge win today over in Bruton. We'll pull up those 4A brackets in just a bit, but a great win there. Also another team playing out of Class 4A today. We had Mobile Christian also on the road there. We also had, of course, the number 2 team in the state in the Jackson Aggies.
Yeah, unfortunately for Mobile Christian, suffered I believe it was 21-0 was the final there to Bullock County. But I know we're unapologetically rooting for our own teams, but Bullock County, that was a big win for them, getting their first 2 postseason wins in program history. I mean, that's a lot.
Yep.
For a team up there. Great season, though, for Mobile Christian. First high school game I got to film down here.
That's
so,
right.
They'll always hold a special spot in my heart.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we will break down the 4A brackets right now. So we will have, yet again, another rematch. Sometimes we get lucky again to have these rematches in the third round. Typically, we had them in the semifinal round. But when you get 3 of the 4 teams in, 3 of the 4 teams in the South are from our area. So Jackson will host W.S. Neal. Of course, W.S. Neal 35-7 over American Christian, and Jackson getting the win on the road at Hanley 42-28. Jackson will host that game because they won the regular season matchup over W.S. Neal, and the Eagles will look to keep their season alive. The Jackson Aggies looking to win back-to-back Class 4A state championships, and St. Michael will host Bullock County next week. So we are guaranteed 2 spots, 2 local teams playing in the state semifinals.
That's awesome. We always love that. And without further ado, you want to lead us into Class 3A now?
Let's do it. Class 3A now. For the first time since 2018, the Cottage Hill Christian Warriors back in action here. Coach Carvel Jones and company. Obviously, the last 2 years, they won 5 games total, and they eclipsed that mark pretty early on this season because of guys like him. This is Caleb Metzner getting into the end zone for the touchdown, an early touchdown for Cottage Hill. Shamar Tootle on that pass, and on this pass as well, hitting his freshman playmaker Aaron Ward. That's another score. So an early 14-0 lead. However, Southside will come back in this one. This is Kendrell Wilson into the end zone there for the touchdown. I'll tell you what, though, there's no fight in this football team here from Cottage Hill. They played literally every game to the whistle. That was Tootle to Travis Smith. They've had so many playmakers all year long, and this is not even counting Shadarius Tootle, the Auburn commit, who's obviously a great playmaker for this football team as well. We've seen this team grow and mature under head coach Carvel Jones, but it is Southside Selma who got the win. Final score on this one was 39-22. So just like we talked about with all of our local teams, there's nothing you hang your head about because we've seen this team develop and grow, and there's so much to be proud of moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, great season for Cottage Hill. I mean, I know we had Shadarius here in the studio.
Yep.
We did an interview the day that he flipped his commitment, and I tell you what, that was one of the most entertaining and fun conversations I think we've ever had here in this room.
Yeah.
And, I mean, kudos to them. Great season. But Southside Selma, they will take on the winner here with Bayside Academy taking on Randolph County 5th-ranked Bayside Academy. And we're going to open it up here with Bayside after the kick. Here, there's going to be a kick return. These are different highlights than we aired earlier. So, I mean, we just get so many highlights that we just don't have the time to.
Time constraints, yeah.
Yeah.
We got to trim them down a little bit.
Trim them down here a little bit. So, Bayside's going to start with it here. A nice jet sweep action here from Monroe Parton. He's going to get that block there from his man and sprints down the sideline. And he's just going to easily pounce his way into the end zone there for the touchdown. And here is Randolph County trying to get some action going here, but unable. Great defense there from Bayside Academy. Still nothing on the scoreboard there for the Tigers, trying to fend off a good Bayside team. I mean, this would be a great game for Randolph County to build some momentum heading into next year. And some more defense there from Bayside. And here we go again. Direct snap. No, I'm sorry. This is a pass here, and this will set up the next touchdown here for the Admirals. Direct snap to Brennan Yamani, and he's going to power his way into the end zone there, and he's going to let you know about it. He flexes the muscles. And a quick little screen pass here. I believe this would set up the next touchdown for Bayside in this one. It would be another direct snap to Yamani, and he's going to scamper his way into the end zone. It was all Bayside here tonight. 47-7 is the final.
Yeah, it's great to see this class of seniors. They have been building with Coach Barrett Trotter, and Barrett Trotter now in his 3rd year. I mean, these guys were all young, of course, when he got there. This team lost to St. Michael in the opening game on August 22nd.
Just rattles off wins since.
They have not lost since then. An 11-game winning streak. And let me tell you what's more impressive to me about this Bayside Academy football team. First game, of course, playing one of the most high-caliber offenses in the entire state, 1A to 7A. They gave up 41 points to St. Michael. Week number 2, played Marbury, won that game 41-19. So still a blowout win, gave up 19 points. Then played Orange Beach, gave up 13 points in a 42-13 win. Let me tell you what they've given up since that day. Since September 5th, 0, 7, 6, 7, 7, 14, 0,
wow.
And now in the playoffs, 7 and 7. This is a team, we talked about Brandon Yamani and the entire offense. This defense has been unbelievable for this football team. And just like they say in basketball and everywhere else, defense travels.
And then defense wins championships as well.
And defense wins championships. That's exactly right.
You got to play good defense. I mean, sometimes you say a good defense is a great offense, but I mean, once you get into the postseason, you're playing up against great defenses that get you out of your own region. So, I mean, you can't always rely on your offense, so you got to have a great defense.
That's exactly right. So I think a lot of people who think, okay, well, you have a coach who used to be a former quarterback in the SEC in Barrett Trotter, former Auburn quarterback. This is a team that's going to light it up. And it's not. It's the defensive side that's really carrying it up. But I will say the offense is still lighting it up. You saw there in those highlights. I've just been so impressed by this defense, though. And once again, Bayside Academy, for the 2nd year in a row, they are marching on into the state quarterfinal round of the playoffs. So we can set the table for you for the Class 3A bracket. Cottage Hill losing to Southside Selma, Trinity losing to Glenwood School. So it is Southside Selma and Glenwood School that will meet in the quarterfinal round. Southside Selma will host that football game. Bayside Academy, of course, knocking off Randolph County. Montgomery Academy beating Lee Scott Academy. So it's Bayside Academy and Montgomery Academy. That game will be across the bay there in Daphne for a chance to go into the state semifinals. You and I were honoring the Zaxby's Player of the Week. This was 3 weeks ago now. Or two weeks ago. Yeah. Just ahead of their first-round playoff game. One of the big things they said is that, hey, we thought we had a game last year. They played Southside Selma in the 3rd round. They thought they should have won that game, and that has fueled them all the way back to this point. I want to be a fly in that locker room, in the meeting rooms, on the practice field all week, because this is what they've been working for, to get right back to this moment, and now they're here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have our game of the week set.
Yeah.
I mean, are we doing a game of the week next week?
I think we might.
We might.
I think we're probably going to do like an extended sports cast, and so we'll probably have one game that is the marquee kind of game of the week.
I mean, you could make a great case for that. I mean, the storylines definitely surround it.
Exactly right. So Bayside Academy will host Montgomery Academy. They're back in the third round of the playoffs, right where they wanted to be. So we broke down 7A, we broke down 6A, 5A, 4A, and 3A. Now let's move over to Class 1A. No 2A representatives here in the South. Over to Class 1A, we will start here with McIntosh and Maplesville. And I got to tell you what, if you don't pay much attention to high school football in this area, especially the smaller classes, Maplesville is an absolute powerhouse. But congratulations to this McIntosh team, because they are back in the playoffs for the first time since 2012.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, Coach Joshua Harris and company have done such a great job with this program to advance it forward. And this is an unbelievable interception here. Shout out to Kyler Dixon. It keeps it scoreless after the end of the first quarter.
I think I was speechless on the show. I saw that for the first time.
Right.
I think I said, wow, and then I just couldn't talk for the next 2 minutes, because, I mean, that was incredible.
That was awesome. And so it was 0-0 coming up at the end of the first quarter. But I'll tell you, it was a dominating performance by one man. This is Nathaniel McCrary. You can just tell he's got the size. He's an absolute beast for this football team. Scores a touchdown there, scores on a nice short 5-yard touchdown run here. And he would end up scoring again. He scored the first 3 touchdowns of the game. So right after a really good defensive effort by both teams, he comes up with 3 straight scores. But no quit here in these Demons later on in this game. Brandon Dixon would hit Joshua Harris, but it shorted the end zone as time would expire just before the first half ends. I'll tell you what, this is a night that they're upset. You mentioned this earlier, a night where they're upset. But this is a season they'll remember for a very long time. Once again, back in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. 48-0 your final score. Maplesville gets the win.
And, I mean, it does hurt. It definitely is going to hurt through the weekend. But
Absolutely.
I think you wake up on Monday, you go to school, and then all your buddies are like, hey, man, what a great season. I mean, You guys made the playoffs. What a great season. And eventually, as time moves on, you start to be okay. And then you're like, wow, we really did change history here for this program.
Absolutely. And just to a credit here to Maplesville and what they've done all season long, this is now their 6th shutout in a row.
Wow.
Number 6, they have not given up a point since they let Holtville score 14 points in a 52-14 win.
I mean,
back in September.
There are soccer teams that can't even do that.
Exactly.
That's wow.
That's exactly right. That's why there's no shame in this game for McIntosh. Congratulations to the Demons. Very, very, very good season. Coach Josh Harris and company, you've done an unbelievable job. But it is Maplesville going on to the second round. Maplesville, once again, we said it, they're a powerhouse program. They've won 4 state championships, looking to get back. Congratulations to Brad Abbott and company being able to move on there in that second round into the third round. And then we have one more team here.
One more team
left in Class 1A.
Linden taking on our last team here, number 3, Leroy. Second play of the game here. This is Jacaven Collins, and he takes it all the way for the touchdown, but Leroy unable to convert the PAT, so it is 6-0 here after the touchdown, again, on the second play of the game. But here's Leroy, again, later in the first, hand off to Jacaven Collins yet again, and I mean, he is strong, because he just dragged that dude into the end zone for the touchdown. They were able to convert the 2-point conversion this time, and it is 14-0 Leroy here, still in the first. This is Jace Sellers. Nice little pitch and catch here to Josh Reed. He's going to take it the rest. Nice cutback there. 60 yards for the touchdown, and it is 21-0 Leroy, still in the first quarter. And now it's going on to the second quarter now, and we'll give the defense here some love. A nice tip and interception here for Ja'Cory Yelder. And it was a 40-0 Leroy lead at the half. But got to give Linden credit. They bounced back in the second half, outscored Leroy 22-0. But Leroy wins this one 40-22.
At 40-22, and we got some clarification here from our friend Cameron and Corey Heathcock that it was the JV that got into that game.
No.
So it was one of those things where like it might have been like the starters for one team, the JV versus another. So we'll give the starters the goose egg
Yeah,
goose egg. And
that's great that they got the young guys in, though.
But I'll tell you what, I have a philosophy here as it relates to teams that have powerhouse programs. Mm-hmm. The reasons why they do is because they're able to put their JV guys in meaningful games, meaningful playoff games. It's a second-round playoff game. I know the defense, they'll look at the film. They won't be happy with their effort, but more than likely they're playing against the older group from Linden who still had their starters in.
Right.
But teams that are able to have powerhouse programs, I think the reason why is because you're able to season your young guys early, because your starters are able to get a big lead. So this is no disrespect to that JV team.
It goes a long way. It really does.
100%. So the next time they're put into the situation as starters next year, they'll know how to handle it because they've been there before. There's only so much that you can really, account for in practice. You have to get underneath the lights and be able to do so. So thank you for letting us know. And it makes sense. The score makes sense why they let up those 22 points. So the scoreboard not necessarily indicative of the way the game went. Leroy blows them out. 40-22, the final score there. They will take on Mackenzie.
Gotta give the starters their credit, though.
Absolutely.
Goose egg there in that one. Maybe we should get out the Bissell, get out the Bissell vacuum there, and then start something for next year.
Exactly. Start
Shut out. You get the Bissell vacuum.
That's exactly right. Start the sweeps for next year, and we're also getting in the chat that they put in their JV just about every game this season. So
I mean that's gonna really help as.
Nothing beats Friday night experience.
Yes.
You cannot replicate that.
It starts to slow the game down too.
Yes, exactly. So
I bet you that first time they were in, I mean. Everyone was probably moving so fast. It probably felt like the NFL out there. And then when you get these experiences now, it also helps because you can get regular season experience.
Yes.
But when your season's on the line, I get it. You're up 40-0. Still, this is an elimination game for someone. Yeah. I mean, that definitely helps too with your mentality.
Yep, exactly right. And so this is a Leroy football team that won the state championship back in 2023. They went back-to-back, 2022, 2023. I was there at the 2023 game, and Coach Chan Lowe and company, it was an unbelievable experience and environment. They've won a lot of state titles there. They won in 2004, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2010, 22, and 23. People know Leroy football around the state and around the country. But this is a team and a program that continues to stay hungry. So congratulations to the Bears. They are marching on into that next round. So we'll break down the Class 1A bracket as we sit right now. Maplesville, after that win over McIntosh, will host Southern Choctaw next week. Southern Choctaw beat University Charter 26-12. Of course, Maplesville won that game 48-0. On the other side of the bracket, it is Mackenzie that will host Leroy next week. So just the way the bracket falls, Leroy will be on the road next week. It looks like it's a lot like what Williamson went through, being the bottom team there on the bracket. So Mackenzie will host Leroy coming up tomorrow. So we will be, of course, rooting for Leroy to punch their ticket into the state semifinals. And for those that don't know, the state semifinals are on Black Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and so a lot of people can get excited for that one as they go into that semifinal round. Of course, some business to take care of coming up next week here on this program. So those are all the games, Class 1A to Class 7A. What really sticks out to you here after the second round?
Well, I got to say, I think Saraland, I know they get all the credit.
Yeah.
But I think that was one of the more impressive wins because it really, when you look at sports, sometimes you just get a gut check.
Yeah.
And they got a gut check early against Spain Park. I mean, Spain Park gave them a real good fight. But Saraland just found a way to win. And that was honestly, when we were talking about it, we were like, oh no, like what's going to happen here?
Right.
And then Saraland pulled out the win.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, that's a gutsy win.
Exactly.
That's a gutsy win.
Yep. And we were watching. We put together the show during the day, and one of the elements on our TVs there in the sports office is whether it's ESPN or whatever talk show host that we have on, and one of them was Pat McAfee, and he had Nick Saban on today, and of course they do a little Friday hit from the site of College Game Day. And one thing Coach Saban said that really stuck out, they were talking about Ohio State, and Ohio State really had not been tested all year. They've blown every team out, and one of the things he said is that it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it's good that you're winning all these games by blowout, but a lot of times when the game does get tight, because you're so used to blowing teams out, it's sometimes harder for those teams to be able to rally in those tight games. Well, Saraland has been doing that for the most part of the season. Not every team. They haven't blown out every team, but most teams, they're up big early on. And so to be able to, like you said, take a punch from Spain Park, so to speak, and then be able to weather the storm and then come back really shows a lot of grit from those guys.
I think I made a Texas comparison to a different team earlier on the show. I'm going to make another college football comparison. I think Saraland is this year's Texas A&M.
Right.
Because they just find different ways to win. I mean, no matter what happens, blowout, close game, got to fight back after getting a gut check here early in the game. They just find a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of coaches use the motto, find a way.
Right.
But I mean, that's just how it is. You just have to find a way.
You have to find a way to be able to get a win and move on and advance into that second round. And we of course have we'll check up on the situation with Williamson and Viger, because I think it's saying that Williamson is going to be on the road, and typically by the time second round, it's usually if the times traveled is the same. And Williamson has traveled once. They traveled tonight. But Montgomery Catholic also traveled once. They traveled tonight. So it looks like on the bracket, Williamson will be at Montgomery Catholic. But, of course, that'll all get settled out tomorrow officially. I'm still looking for official word from the AHSAA to see where that game would be. But from the information that we have gathered, that game will be in the state capitol. But a really nice day overall. And I feel good for the teams that came into the season with a lot of hype and answering the bell. A team like Saraland, as you just pointed out, and a team that I think some people might have said, okay, well, good season, and maybe thought that, okay, it's now time to play basketball. And a team like W.S. Neal is like, no, sir, we're going to play this game at home, go on the road last week, play this game at home, beat American Christian 35-7, and advance to the second round, which means 3 of the 4 teams in Class 4A will be representative from this area, which also means, if you're doing the math forward, there will be a representative in the state championship game from here. Whether it's Jackson, whether it's W.S. Neal, or whether it's St. Michael, that's left to be found out over the course of the next 2 weeks. But that's got to be really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what makes sports.
Yep.
I mean, simply put,
sports
are just the greatest, and this is just another reason why. But Class 4A, I mean, it's going to be great because Region 1 does get a team in the state championship, as you mentioned. And, man, I'm just looking forward to these matchups as we start to get down to crunch time.
Exactly. Let's roll through some of those highlights again. Let's roll through our Game of the Week highlights once again there as Saraland goes once again back into the third round of the playoffs. This is a team that has made the state championship game for each of the last 3 seasons. They won the state championship back in 2022. They fell short in 2023 and last season, looking to get back. And one of the big things that I get a chance to talk with Coach Jeff Kelly about whenever we're just talking, just the two of us, whether it's in practice or if we see each other, we saw each other at the mall not too long ago, is one of the things that we talked about was, how to get your team ready when you're playing these long playoff games. Because if you think about it, they have played an equivalent to an entire season just in playoff games. If you take a look at their last 3 seasons, 5 games in 2022, 5 games in 2023, 5 games in 2024, and they're about to play their 3rd game here in 2025. That's almost a whole season. We do this like with LeBron and with Jordan, people who play long extended playoff series games. You end up playing almost the entire season more so than everybody else. So I'm really interested. I always like to pick the brain of those kind of coaches. Like, how do you handle the spring? How do you handle the summer? Knowing you're going to have to play 15 long weeks, and especially with nights like tonight, lets you know that they handle the week really well.
Yeah, I mean, just going right back to it, gotta find a way here, and honestly, great win for Saraland here tonight. And we'll roll on to 7A as we go back through these highlights. Auburn took on Daphne, a top 10 matchup. Auburn 4th ranked in 7A, and then Daphne coming in at number 8. Daphne would open it up here with the ball in this one. This is Christian Seeger. He's scrambling. He's trying to find a man, but just unable to hold onto the football here, and Auburn is able to pounce on that one as they recover the fumble. And as we talked about earlier, Kason Myers, a starting quarterback for Auburn, would be sacked here, and this sack would actually knock him out of the game. He ended up leaving with an injury. So backup quarterback John Pate would have to come in, and he did not miss a beat at all. He rolls over to his left, and he would hit Joshua Askew on the run. Nice catch there from Askew, and he darts his way into the end zone. 6-0 here for the Tigers. Daphne would look to try and bounce back here and answer, but again, just unable to keep control of the football here in this one. Auburn able to pounce on the ball yet again. Another fumble recovery, and that would lead to a Cortez Cooks touchdown run. Auburn would go for the 2-point try and convert, so it would make it a 14-0 game. Second quarter, an Auburn punt would pin Daphne at their own 1-yard line, and then just unable to get out of the end zone here. Auburn safety making it 16-0. Then later on in the second, it would be Pate, and he's going to keep this one. Pate keeps this one, and he just showed off the agility there. So, yep. Backup quarterback, I'd be interested to see if he's a dual threat moving forward for them. 23-0 Auburn, and then right before the half, Pate rolling out to his right. He's mobile, that's for sure, and he hits Antonio Welch for the score, 30-0 Auburn at the half. And the Tigers would win this one 40-0.
Absolutely, and we'll just quickly roll through some of the other ones. I won't go play by play on this one. Baker and Opelika. This was a good, very, very good Baker football team. We mentioned that they made history last year, came back this year. 35-9, the final score. They went on the road. It's a really good Opelika football team. And hat tip to Coach Eric Scott and company in his first season as the head coach, picking up the mantle from Juan Johnson from a year ago, taking it yet one step further, getting into that second round. Yes. Again, they got into the second round last year, played Hewitt-Trussville, but played another great game here, so congratulations to them. Central Phoenix City played Fairhope earlier tonight. A great season for the veteran head coach in Tim Carter, but it's Central Phoenix City that got the win there. MGM went to Thompson, and MGM falling to the Thompson Warriors, the defending state champion in 7A. 54-0, the final score there. I can roll through the matchups coming up for next week here in this one. And it looks like, once again, they will all be finalized tomorrow. But in Class 7A, your Final Four is now set. Opelika will be on the road at Auburn. And also in 7A, the other side of the semifinal bracket, it'll be Thompson and Central Phoenix City. Central Phoenix City will host that football game against the defending state champion Thompson Warriors. In Class 6A, hat tip to my alma mater, the Homewood High School Patriots, will play the number 1 team in Class 6A, Clay Chalkville. One loss between them, and Homewood's loss came on one of the craziest plays you'll ever see. It was a 2-point conversion for Mountain Brook that got botched, and Mountain Brook somehow, some way heaves it downfield. Mountain Brook scores. Wow. It is a touchdown. That's how Homewood lost. Only loss of the season. So 11-1 Homewood goes to play undefeated Clay Chalkville. The other game, Hueytown at Benjamin Russell. Theodore played Ben Russell today. Great Ben Russell football team. They get the win. The Wildcats get the win. So they'll play Hueytown next week. Muscle Shoals will play Mountain Brook in the other South matchup. Saraland will play Pike Road. If these games sound familiar, it's because it's almost a carbon copy of last year. Saraland last year, they played Spain Park, then they played Pike Road. Saraland this year plays Spain Park. They'll go to Pike Road coming up this year. Undefeated Saraland at Pike Road. Briarwood and Moody will hit the field coming up tomorrow. Briarwood 7-5 on the season. Moody 10-2. And then Central Clay County will play at Viger. That is the famed head coach, Danny Horn. He will come down to Viger and play this football game. I've known Coach Horn for a very long time. An unbelievable man, and just a great, great guy. And it was great to see him lining up against Renardo Jackson and the Viger Wolves. The other matchup, Scottsboro at Fairview. And then Williamson going to Catholic Montgomery. I know a lot of people in the chat are thinking that the game might be at Williamson. From everything that we have been able to deduce, that game will be in Montgomery there at Montgomery Catholic. Of course, these things will all get certified coming up tomorrow. In Class 4A, it is Anniston and Deschler. And then the other matchup will be Plainview at Good Hope. The South matchup, St. Michael will host Bullitt County, and W.S. Neal and Jackson, a battle of two teams out of Region 1. What we root for all the time here, W.S. Neal, 9-3 on the season, will go to play Jackson. Geraldine will play Mars Hill in Class 3A in the North. The other North matchup, Gordo and Piedmont. Piedmont undefeated on the season. The South matchup, Glenwood at Southside Selma. Southside Selma knocking off Cottage Hill today. Bayside Academy will host Montgomery Academy. Your early pitch, you're doing the game day producer thing. Like, which one should be our game of the week? I think you think it should be their game of the week.
I don't know. Now that you have the W.S. Neal one.
Yeah, W.S. Neal Jackson.
That's going to be another one.
That's going to be another, obviously,
there's our
great matchup. Yep. We'll have our two best people there at that football game. So Bayside Academy will host Montgomery Academy. In Class 2A, I know that we don't have any local teams in 2A, but just to spit those out for high school football fans out there, Lynette at Laverne. Reeltown, Providence Christian. Those are your north matchups, or those are your south matchups. And you got Pisgah, you got Southeastern, Tuscaloosa Academy, and Coosa Christian. The head coach of Coosa Christian, Coach Rush Probst, of course, who coached at Hoover High School, coached in Georgia. One of the most famous coaches throughout the entire country will lead his team against Tuscaloosa Academy. And then in Class 1A, you have Addison, Marion County, Hubbardsville at Wadley. Leroy will go to McKenzie. Southern Choctaw will go to Maplesville. So I'm really interested to find out how all this shakes out coming up towards the end of the season. But this is a really good time to be a high school football fan.
I'm going to be keeping an eye on, obviously, Class 4A for our own teams, but also 6A, see if Saraland can keep the momentum going on. I mean, I know you said carbon copy, but, again, you just got to – yeah, you played the games last year, but those games mean nothing now. You got to just go ahead in this year and then just keep the momentum moving forward. Obviously, got a big win here tonight against Spain Park, and see if the Spartans can keep it moving.
Absolutely. We'll close things out here. Of course, you can watch Southeast Sports Plus, Patrick and myself and all of our friends around Nexstar Nation, breaking down all things in college football. And obviously college football and college basketball. Of course, a lot of our local guys doing well at the next level. That includes LeBaron Philon, having an unbelievable season. Played at Baker High School. I know he's proud of his former Baker High School teammates, having a great season so far, had a great season so far this year. What are you looking forward to tomorrow as we gear up for another big week in college football?
Well, if we're talking about our own guys down here, you got to look at Ryan Williams on Alabama.
Right.
He just got back into the end zone last week, and it was a tough one against LSU. And honestly, I know a lot of people went into the game thinking, oh, man, this LSU team is down this year. I think Alabama's just going to roll over them. I think Nick Saban earlier on the show, on Pat McAfee's show, said it great. Yeah, LSU's down this year, but it's still LSU. It's still a rivalry. You can't overlook these games. So there's two games in particular this weekend that on our show we've been talking about pretty much all week, and that's Texas, Georgia.
Yeah.
That's going to have major college football playoff implications. I think that it could be a potential matchup that we see in a few weeks.
That's right.
And then Oklahoma taking on Alabama.
That's a huge one. Oklahoma and Alabama. You talked about the Texas matchup. Former Saraland quarterback KJ Lacey, who led the team to the state championship a year ago, who was our WKRG Player of the Week, Zaxby's Player of the Year, I should say, and also won the Mr. Football Award. The Mr. Football Award has gone through Saraland each of the last 3 years. Ryan Williams, and then KJ Lacey. We'll see if they can spit out yet another Mr. Football Award winner. But Ryan Williams obviously playing for Alabama, and KJ Lacey, quarterback in that wide receiver room for Coach Steve Sarkisian in Texas. Both their teams coming in with huge games as it relates to the college football playoff. Also another former star in this area, former Mobile Christian star, Deontay Lawson, anchoring the defense for Alabama.
And a defense that's gotten really good over the last few weeks. It feels like they just keep on building. I know we talked about, okay, how can they stop the mobile quarterback? They're going to get another test here this week, but I thought they were very impressive against an LSU offense that, it hasn't been great this year. But Michael Van Buren is a dual threat quarterback, and they were able to control him.
That's exactly right. And so the leader of that defense will be, of course, Kane Womack, who knows this area very well. He knows every high school coach that's in the playoffs and out of the playoffs. He knows every high school coach around here, of course, recruited around here for South Alabama, now doing the same for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He will lead that defense in a big game against the Oklahoma Sooners. And we have other big games as well on tap. You got Tennessee playing at a big game as well. You have Kentucky will play Tennessee Tech.
10-0 Tennessee Tech.
10-0 Tennessee Tech coming up next week there, coming up tomorrow there as well. And some big college basketball games to get really excited for. We talked about LeBaron Philon. They'll go play Illinois, one of the best teams, coming up next week on Wednesday. But before that, Auburn will play one of the best teams in the country. They'll play the Houston Cougars, and Coach Stephen Pearl and company, a great test early on here for his guys.
Yeah, I know Bethune-Cookman gave him a real big test,
Yep.
taking the Tigers to overtime in
Yep.
the first game of the season. I mean, Stephen Pearl had to sweat out his first win as head coach, but that's a game where he's really going to see who he's got and who he can rely on moving forward. I know we talked on Southeast Sports Plus today about you want to schedule these tough games against tough opponents to see who you have.
Mm-hmm.
Looking over in Tuscaloosa, Nate Oates, he's got a tough schedule coming up here, but he'd much rather lose these games and know who he's got heading into SEC play because, as I mentioned before the season, I think if you finish in the top half of the SEC, it's not going to be crazy like last year where 14 teams get in. I just don't see that happening 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
the continuity just cannot be there.
Yeah.
But if you finish 8th or higher, I think you make it in.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then flipping over to South Alabama, they also have a nice stretch there in St. Petersburg right now. Their basketball team, their men's basketball team people might remember a guy by the name of Stephen Williams. He played in Atmore, Escambia County High School. A lot of people in our building call it Atmore High School.
Atmore.
I don't want to call them old heads because I'm knocking on the door. But Escambia County High School, he was a dominating player for them, and now he's a dominating player at South Alabama for Coach Richie Riley. He had a really good game. Played 17 minutes, had 9 points in their game against Central Michigan. Got a win over Central Michigan. The South Alabama men's basketball team will gear up against Coppin State. He'll play them in the showdown in St. Pete. Really long time before they come back home, not till mid-December. The women's basketball team also in action there. And then the football team for South Alabama will be on the road at Law Monroe. A really strong test there for them as well. So if you're a college football fan that loves players that are from this area that were playing on these exact same fields that we highlighted tonight, you're in for a really good treat this week.
I mean, we talked about it with football, with high school football. It's starting to get to crunch time, and it's especially getting to that time in college football because here the college football playoff brackets are starting to come out. I know we made our own. We crunched the numbers. We tried to figure out who's going to fit in here. I still think the SEC gets 5 teams in, and we're going to see plenty of talent from the Mobile area in the college football playoff. But there's one matchup up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's winning by 70.
That's a big one. That is a big one.
A rivalry matchup.
You talked about all the players that come from this area. It also reminds me of Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle for Texas Tech. Played at Blunt High School, right down the road.
Texas Tech having a great year.
Oh, no question.
Pretty much a lock at this point.
Yep. And we'll see how it all shakes up. Coming up next week, we will have third round action. We will have an extended sportscast on WKRG coming up next week at 10 o'clock. So no formal fifth quarter, but we will still be covering all of our local high school teams as they march on into the state quarterfinal round, looking to a spot in the state semifinal round. For Patrick Walsh and all of us here at WKRG, thank you so much for joining us. Good night.